friends and family remain in your seats until the conclusion of the ceremony, and the platform party has left the auditorium. If you've not already done so, please take the time now to silence all cell phones and pagers. And finally, the reception area has been set up with 2 benches where we encourage you to take as many selfies as you would like after the ceremony. Please remain seated. The faculty are about to enter the auditorium.
In a world made of steel, made of stone. What a feeling, here's believing. I can't have it all now, I'm dancing for my life. Take your passion and make it happen. It just come alive. You can dance right through your life. What a feeling, here's believing. I can't have it all now, I'm dancing for my life. Take your passion and make it happen. It just come alive. You can dance right through your life. I am losing now. I can't have it all now, I'm dancing for my life. What a feeling, what a feeling. I can't have it all,
Good morning to our first graduating class of 2016. An hour and a half, you will walk across this platform to start a new phase of your career. Also want to welcome all the family, friends of our graduates. It's great that you could come today to help celebrate this great day in their lives. Just a couple of comments about Convocation. In my hand here, we have a baton. Inside the baton are the over 125,000 graduates who have preceded you. When you come up to the platform, because I'm not allowed to shake hands anymore, they tell me if one of you's got a cold, I pass it on to everybody else. There's lots of things I'd like to pass on to you, that's not one of them. But I'll tap you on the shoulder and welcome you to our alumni. Just one final comment. Hopefully you'll all be able to hold your celebrations off until after all your graduates have had their diplomas, because I'm sure you want to show the same respect for each other. Have a wonderful day. We try to keep the ceremony very informal and look forward to sharing your party with you afterwards. Now I'd like to ask our very esteemed President, Dr. Alan Woodward, to address Convocation. Degree of Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa, with all the rights, privileges, and honors here and elsewhere, thereto appertaining. Felicitation. It's now my great privilege to ask Dr. Benigni to address Convocation.
It became obvious when taken during pregnancy. It caused several birth defects, including missing and stunted limbs, missing organs, deafness, blindness, for those who were fortunate enough to survive. The total number of people affected by thalidomide represent the largest man-made disaster outside war in all of our history. While concern over these horrific side effects led thalidomide to be withdrawn from West Germany and UK by December 61. The drug remained available to pregnant women in Canada until March 1962. Incredulously, it was still available in some doctors' cabinets until mid-May 62, and some survivors were born as late as 1964. Canada was one of the last countries to completely remove the drug from the market. Also, the drug was never approved in the US due to concerns about the lack of adequate data on the drug's safety, while, based on the same data and reports, Canada welcomed it with open arms. My story began before I was born, when my mother was pregnant with me and heard on the radio that the drug thalidomide was the cause of many babies being born mutilated or stillborn in Europe. It was my mother's colleagues at the healthcare facility where she worked who had prescribed her this miracle drug. I cannot imagine the psychological hell that my mother and father must have gone through during this long and painful time before childbirth. And then I was born in June 62. I found out years later that my mother had suffered from severe depression after my birth. Once that crisis was over, my childhood was rather happy and gratifying. At home, I was constantly encouraged to succeed. My parents fought hard for my independence their entire lives. Propelled by love and parental encouragement, I had the ability to face the many trials that life imposed on people affected by birth defects. I also reached a few academic and professional achievements, had fun on my outings with the Brownies of Canada, went rafting on the Red River during a spring flood, learned to drive my car at 18 and forged great friendships. Love and empowerment really had a fantastic impact over people. Without knowing it, I already had the tools to turn adversity, which would be forced upon me during my lifetime, into victory. When I was old enough to really understand what had happened to me, I felt a dreadful sorrow for my parents. From that day on, I have never again been able to correctly swallow a pill. I also became a social worker, an activist defending people marginalized by our society, an instructor in suicide prevention, a support development officer for people with disabilities, and ended up in 1995 working for the Thalidomide Victims Association of Canada. It is through my role at TVAC that I started to gather all the historical facts of the thalidomide tragedy and to realize over the years how quickly the health of the survivor was deteriorating. 50 years of attempting to work around our limitation has taken its toll, and many of us are suffering from nerve damage and painful wear and tear on our bodies. Basic activities such as bathing, dressing, and preparing meals are becoming increasingly difficult for many of us. This deterioration places many in a precarious financial situation, depending upon aging parents, unable to work, and further losing their self-sufficiency. 3 years ago, as Executive Director of TVAC, and as a strong believer of power of partnership initiative, I presented to the Board of Directors our duty to address this crisis and the necessity to create a powerful task force. For this kind of complex political and educational campaign, we needed to be strategic and find partners with specific expertise, such as well-known lobbyists, lawyers, and journalists. Once our team was formed, we began working at what could be done and to right the wrongs of the past. After extensive research on the declining health of survivors across the world and what other governments abroad had done to support the survivors, TVAC's task force launched a campaign in November 2014 to finally get the long-term support from the Government of Canada that was so desperately needed. Collectively, this has been the fight of our lives. In the last 3 years, we have achieved an outpouring of public and media support for our cause, a unanimous vote at the House of Commons that committed the government to providing support with full support, providing survivors with full support, and most recently, the implementation of the Thalidomide Survivors Contribution Program, an extraordinary medical assistance fund that is now officially effective as of April 2016. It is through exceptional determination, solidarity, and partnership that the struggle for justice of the Canadian thalidomide survivors has been replaced by empowerment and pride. It is my hope that Canada will remember us not as mutilated victims, but as strong and determined leaders for justice, respect, and dignity. Our suffering has allowed Canada to transform its drug regulatory system and protect unborn children, and challenge also long-standing beliefs about imposing artificial arms or legs on children born with congenital defects instead of allowing them to find their own way of doing things. I told you of my personal life story today so that you could understand the human scope of the thalidomide tragedy. We are not victims anymore, but survivors. On behalf of all Canada's thalidomide survivors, I thank you for your time, attention, and for this wonderful opportunity to be with you, and I'm so proud of all of you. Thank you.
I want a personal experience. Hands-on, high-tech, fully connected. With programs like social work, engineering, law, medicine, nursing, education.
Just across the Detroit River lies the University of Windsor, Canada's international university campus with students from 80 countries. With over 150 degree programs, students can customize their own undergraduate or graduate education. And with its community and business partnerships, the University of Windsor provides research institutions unmatched in Canada. University of Windsor, quality, professional programs in an international setting.